Thank you, Collard. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I'm just going to check that this works for me. Cool. So I'm going to actually talk about a little bit about my journey and what can be your journey. I'm from Argentina, so my accent, just deal with it in a moment. Yeah. So this for me is important, understanding that we all have a footprint, but how much do we do with that? How big our footprint is? It's actually up to each of us. So one of the first things that I wanted to bring here, and this is how I started, is why do I care? So why do you care? Is it because of the next generations, the kids? Is it because of the pollution in the beach, in the ocean, when you go there? All of the places that used to be beautiful perhaps are not there anymore. The trees are not there. There might be so many different reasons, but which one is your reason? They can be all of it. I know for me, it was me. I cared about me. I cared about me actually living a healthy life, so I started to make changes that actually supported that. And as I started to do that, I realized that I actually cared about the earth. And I was noticing that some of my actions didn't align with that. So I started to change that as well. So one of the biggest things that I want to ask you to do is to know, what do you stand for? What are your values? And if you haven't done this exercise, I encourage you tonight when you get home to actually go and write a list of your values. Because when you realize what you care about, it's easier to know what you're doing. And as I started to do that as well, I realized that not everything is easy to do. We live in a society that we use so much stuff, we use so many resources, so there's no perfection in here. This is a journey. And one of the biggest things that, as we live here in Auckland, and I assume that all of you live here in Auckland? Yes, cool. And if not, we live in a city, in a modern society. There needs to be a lot of convenience in our life. And sometimes we just need to do that. Sometimes we don't have the money, we don't have the time. So what can you do? It's based on your life circumstances. And one of the biggest things for me with that is that if I understand that I can't do everything, then I understand that you cannot do everything. So I cannot point fingers towards anyone, because everyone is doing what they can. So developing a little of compassion for everyone that is actually on their path of understanding. So it's better to educate other than point fingers. So who has heard of this, the waste hierarchy? Cool. So I'm just going to go really fast through this because there's not enough time. But basically what we want to do is we want to refuse as much as possible. We want to reduce what we actually need, and we want to compost everything of what we are actually using, if possible. And lastly, landfill. Landfill is kind of like the big no-no. And I'm going to share in a moment some of the tips, but this is one of my biggest tips. Go everywhere with your zero waste kit. And I have here my personal footprint of the last few years, if I can find it. So I started on Plastic Free July 2018. This is my personal rubbish. So it's 2.5 years now, more or less. So if I can do this, all of you can do this. And this is basically a few festivals, like the things for the festivals, and a couple of receipts that I forgot to say no please, and they gave me to me, and a few banana stickers and stuff like that. So It's not hard to reduce. We just need to know really well what do we care about and educate ourselves on what we are doing. So, be curious. That's the biggest thing that you can do for yourself. So it doesn't matter like everything. It matters just on what you care about. Start to dig deep into that. Slow living is actually really important for me. How many of you are rushing through your days? Yeah. And a lot of times when you're rushing, it's hard to make the right choice. And a lot of times, the biggest thing that I can tell someone is just slow down. If you slow down, it's easier to notice and it's easier to make the right decisions. We can reduce things and become minimalist. We can vote with our dollars for all of the other people that are going to be sharing, support those that are doing the right things. Plan ahead, buy second-hand. As I said, carry this. I have a container, water bottle, reusable coffee cup, some bags over there, cutlery. Have stuff. If you eat, then you're going to need this stuff. So have it with you everywhere. I don't leave home without it because I know today I'm going to eat. So I might not need it because I might actually eat at home or whatever, but I have it just in case. If you buy things at refilleries, go and take your containers. Support your local farmers market. That means less emissions on the packaging, less emissions on actually transportation. You can support locally as well and buy really good and cheaper fruit and veggies. There's so many more topics when we talk about sustainability. I just wanted to focus on a few that are actually really important and basics that we can all do. But once we start on this rabbit hole, like it goes deep, and this is just a few of the topics. So know that there is a lot that you can do. And lastly, you can make the jump to dive deep into it, or you can just start by taking one conscious action. And that is my recommendation. Just as Andrea said before, start with one thing that you care about, focus on that, do it well, and knowing that when you reduce your footprint, you can actually have a much bigger impact in the world. So, thank you.